Are we live? We're doing this. Guys, I could get used to looking at your faces every single day if this is what the reward is. Because Kentucky gets another addition after reeling in Mouhamed Dioubate yesterday, Alabama transfer to just kind of keep that momentum rolling. We now have yet another addition, and this may be the biggest fish Mark Pope has been able to reel in at this point. Arizona State transfer Jayden Quaintance. You may know him, you may love him. Former top 5 recruit, a 5-star McDonald's All-American, is a Kentucky Wildcat. Zach, Jacob, this is one that kind of happened very, very quickly, and it's one that I know Kentucky fans are very, very excited for. So, Zach, how are you feeling this afternoon?
Wow. I mean, Pope really did that one, huh? That was kind of like you said, everything kind of came together really fast, quickly. The rumblings were all over KS board last night, and then news breaks early this morning that he is indeed a cat. Almost a year to the day. It was April 10th of 2024 when he decommitted from Kentucky, or was released from his NLI, and then it was like a month, or maybe like 3 weeks after that he ended up going to Arizona State. I remember Louisville and Kentucky were both trying to get him that first time around. So Pope obviously liked what he saw from him out of high school and wanted to try and get him in Kentucky. And here we are a full year later, and he's got him. So number 3 ranked player in the portal. Like you said, this is the one. Can Pope land the big fish? Well, you've got a big fish. The fish has kind of a hurt knee right now, but that knee's going to get better. And hopefully by the time the season comes around, November, December, you've got a fully healthy big fish. And this kid's going to come in and be a potential top 5 pick come next year's draft. So this was a huge addition. We'll talk about it more in depth. The injury is something that will still be kind of on my mind as we go throughout the offseason and the conversations with how we kind of view this roster and everything. But just from a pure potential and upside standpoint, you're not going to get anyone better in the portal right now than Jayden Quaintance.
Yeah, Jacob, I think so much about Mark Pope. Can he close on the big guy? Like, we've seen him land on some portal stars and college basketball stars at various levels, but could he land the true top end potential future lottery pick? A top 5 guy. And there was some speculation and some concern, but for him to close on this, what does it mean for Pope as a recruiter and what he can be for Kentucky this upcoming season?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of Kentucky fans had concerns about what Pope could do as a recruiter, but just the wider scope of college basketball, there was a lot of talk of how good of a recruiter is Mark Pope? Can he bring that to Kentucky and use that Kentucky brand to reel in some big fish? What I'm most impressed about was I wasn't super high on landing Jayden Quaintance because I thought that would mean they got no chance with Mouhamed Dioubate. To land both of those guys is an insane haul, and you've got a really talented roster with tons and tons of upside.
So we're going to do this in a very weird fashion. I can have Drew slide in or whatever, but hey, we just finished up with KSR. Hey, what's up, buddy? Drew, you can't hear what's going on here, so we're going to have to just kind of do this the old-fashioned way. How are you feeling about this very massive addition that happened right before we went live on KSR?
I am very excited. Last week when Kentucky had missed out on a couple guys, some of the fan base thought the sky was falling. They acted like the portal had closed. There's no other options. Nobody was mentioning Jayden Quaintance, a former Cat. But you know what? It wasn't over, Jack, and it's still not over. Pope goes out and gets the big fish he needed, potential lottery pick. And for me, it's more just about, can we all just exhale and admit that we don't truly know everything that's going on behind the scenes, and not to just sunshine pump for Pope, but you got to trust what he's doing. And today, he came up in a big way getting Quaintance, a big piece they needed. Shot blocking, especially rebounding with what they didn't have a year ago. For me, it's the excitement in him, but it's also the exhale of it's going to be okay, guys. The sky's not falling. The world's not ending. Kentucky is going to be a contender next year, especially if they had shooting. But this is just a big get for Pope, and it's a good get for the fan base. We can all sit back and relax and enjoy the spring, knowing that we're in good hands getting this piece today.
So watching the national championship game last night, does this group as currently constructed look like it could belong on that stage that we saw last night?
Absolutely. I'm gonna assume a shooter gets added. Hopefully it's Yates, but if not, as long as they add that shooter, they'll be a good team if they don't, but I think they will. As long as you add shooting, I mean, there were some of the national rankings, which can be a little silly this time of year, but before the Quaintance commitment this morning, had Kentucky as a top 10 team. On3 had them as 4th. ESPN had them as 6th. That was before the Quaintance news. So they're already in that national conversation when this past season just ended last night, and I think that's only going to improve. I just think it's such a big get. I don't know what it means overall of how some of the other guys will take it, because there's a little bit of a logjam for that spot right now. But Pope had done so much. He kept the hometown recruits in with Jasper Johnson and Marino. He checked that box. He got some fit pieces, and now he finally got one of the big NBA talents that are known nationally and have a lot of expectations and potential. So it's just another win for Pope, even though he still have to play a lot of games. I think he's got him in a great spot for next year.
Well, Zach, he brought up the lefty or the comment, but so much was made about the lefty dynamic. He's not a lefty. Are we sure this is the right take if he's not going to join the lefty fund?
Yeah, I guess that is a good point. We finally got ourselves a righty on the roster here. But if I can just kind of touch on what I think Quaintance will bring to the roster. Drew mentioned it. Shot blocking is the main thing. He was a 9.8 block percent guy last season. That was top 20 in the entire country. A very high level rebounder on both ends of the floor. A guy that wants to rim run, finish lobs, dunk, get around the paint. I would probably not look at his 3-point shooting percentages and free throw shooting percentages. He kind of shoots the ball like Karl Anthony Towns does, except for the whole fact that Karl Anthony Towns has been shooting 40% from 3 for a decade now in the NBA, and Jayden Quaintance just shot like 19% this past season. But they kind of have similar shooting motions. They don't really have much lift. But Jayden Quaintance is going to do the bulk of his work inside and on defense. Just kind of a bully in the paint. Really good at getting his way to the rim. He can take bigger guys off the dribble a little bit too. The rebounding and defense, this is a legitimate defensive player of the year, national defensive player of the year type upside. Like, he was 2.6 blocks a game last year, playing under 30 minutes a game, can defend multiple positions. And that's a theme that we're really starting to see here. I think what is Quaintance's wingspan? Like 7'5" is the reported, 7'4", 7'5".
Yes.
So you've got all these really long, 6'9", 6'10" guys with these 7-foot plus wingspans, where you got Dioubate now, and even like Kam Williams. So you can see where Pope's going. He's leaning more towards athleticism, versatility, maybe a little bit more toughness in those areas. Like Drew said, though, it does kind of create an interesting situation with, how does it all work with Dioubate, Brandon Garrison, Malachi Moreno, Jayden Quaintance? Is there going to be more conversations about that? But we were talking yesterday about how I was like, well, Pope can be patient now. He only has a couple more spots to play with. He can play it slow with Jayden Quaintance, see how the injury's going. And he said, no, we can lock down the number 3 guy in the portal right now. Let's go for it. Let's do it. And now I think even our own Matt Jones, our big boss, just tweeted something maybe within the last hour saying that Kentucky's going to go after a shooter. That's their last missing piece, is going after a shooter. If that guy is Wesley Yates, I think they've got a really good looking roster. But I'm still weary about the whole ACL injury thing and stuff like that, but I can easily be talked into that. Someone can talk me into that, how that won't matter pretty easily. If anyone here wants to try to right now, I'll gladly be open ears for it.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that because, talking to, the Quaintance family and knowing just a little bit more about the surgery. So it was a full repair. It was a, full ACL tear, but the doctors are unbelievably optimistic about just the turnaround, and just I feel like we just have the lens of 20 years ago what a torn ACL looked like and how it was like a full 12 to 15 month process. You're seeing guys get back and playing regulation basketball games and football games and just across all sports in 6, 7, 8 months. So the early returns are extremely positive about when he'd be able to play. I am not personally willing to promise he'll be there day one as the season tips off or play for the exhibition games or whatever. But they're pretty firm about that September return to contact, and then kind of ramping things up from there. But I would definitely pencil him into for the early part of the season, especially leading into SEC play and definitely going into postseason play, he'll be back to full strength. So I think knowing the risk, there is a risk there. But man, Jacob, I just think the upside when you talk, if you can guarantee me something out of him at some point, especially at the midway point on, I don't know how you can't look at this upside and not just be absolutely thrilled with it, Jacob.
Yeah, upside is the key word. That's the word that I'm going to keep coming back to because, like you said, he's coming off the ACL injury. He's not guaranteed to play right away. But when he gets on the court, there's no one with higher upside on this Kentucky team. And there are very few players with higher upside in the entire country. So you take a chance on a guy like that. And now you have the depth around him. You have Brandon Garrison. You have Mo Diabate. You've got a lot of good pieces to fill around him where you don't need him to be a superstar. If he is a superstar, that's great for Kentucky, but you don't need him to do everything on the court.
In talking to him, he was on KSR today, said, the Amari Williams, just like the film, having Amari, be as good as he did and, playing his way into pro contention was definitely something that the family looked deep into and just, hoping to be a long-term better version of that, which, Zach, I know you're, the conductor of the Amari Williams hype train. So a better version of that is definitely something as we're looking at breakfast sandwiches here. Shout out YouTube. Yeah, it did look tasty. Not Weetabix that Amari Williams will be eating, but a better version, hopefully, is kind of the idea of Amari Williams of what you could get with Jayden Quaintance.
Yeah, and it does seem interesting that that's kind of how Pope was pitching. Is like, hey, come be our Amari Williams. So is it kind of, is he penciled in as trying to be your starting five guy? Where is that kind of leave Brandon Garrison? Is that going to be a split situation? But like you kind of look at the passing numbers, you like a 10% assist rate and this is, I think, the main thing, and we haven't talked about it yet. He was all the stats and everything we just talked about, he was doing at 16 years old. Mostly 16. So
17, 16, 17, yeah.
17 years old. So he doesn't turn 18 until July, which is just insane to think about. So he will be going into his second season of college basketball before he can even go out and vote. So I think that's kind of the main takeaway of all this is he's only going to keep getting better and better, assuming everything goes fine with the ACL and all that. But I think he is a guy that you can use as kind of your hub to be the Amari Williams type replacement. I think he's probably a little bit better at beating guys off the dribble than Amari was. We'll have to see how the 3-point shooting actually comes around a little bit, if that ends up being something that he can add into his repertoire. I feel like he'll probably be a guy that Pope wants to shoot a couple, maybe one or two every game, just to see if he can keep defenses honest. And because that's really what Amari was missing. Amari was missing was the 3-point shot. So I do think he's going to be he's going to play with that Brandon Garrison type role. He's not exactly like the most physically imposing guy to be a center. Quaintance is at like 6'5", 220-ish, 230, or 6'10", 230-ish, whatever he ends up being when he gets here. So we'll see how that all plays out. But just on the surface and everything on paper, like it's going to be hard to get anything better than a guy like him, especially in Pope's offense, where he's probably just going to have all of his strengths heightened even a little bit more.
Jacob, the momentum's rolling. I mean, it feels like every day we're talking, getting a new commitment. What could be next? Very clearly wanting another shooter to wrap this thing up, or at least kind of get the core group. If we'll see what happens down the road. If there's a kind of long-term project piece or something, we'll see what happens with the house settlement and how that changes the plans. But very obviously, one key role that they're still searching for. I've heard very good things about Wesley Yates. If you subscribe to KSR Plus, we've talked about it. If you have been subscribed, known these last two commitments have been on the horizon, and this could be the next step. Kentucky battling Washington for that head-to-head battle. What would Wesley Yates do to kind of put a bow on this roster in terms of national title hopes and kind of getting back to the Final Four? And if it's not Wesley Yates, is there anybody out there that you could see, fill in that role?
Yeah, well, everyone talks about Kentucky needing a scorer, some guy that can put the ball in the basket, and Wesley Yates would do exactly that. We've talked about where things stand with the recruitment. It does feel like it's Kentucky or Washington. And it feels like he is priority number one for Kentucky to close things out. If you land him, you've got your scorer, you've got your guard. This is your roster, and you're looking like a top 5 team. If you miss out on him, then things get a little you can get a little creative with it. They reached out to Dan Skillings from Cincinnati this morning, and then they've got a lot of guys on their list, like Rylan Griffin from Kansas. You still have Jaron Pierre from Jacksonville State. You can kind of pick and choose. And maybe there will be more guys to enter the portal, but right now all eyes are on Wesley Yates, and you can figure out the rest later.
And Zach, I think that's the perfect segue, because think of where we were this time last week, and just the panic button that this fan base pressed just repeatedly over and over and over again. And we kind of just said, hey, like, portal doesn't close till April 22nd. Let's just take a deep breath. Let's, understand that there are 2,000 names in the portal right now, and that list is only growing. Let's, take a chill pill and know that there are options to fill this roster that will make us feel like this is a national championship level roster. So if it's not Wesley Yates, and I'm definitely not saying that if you were to ask for my, early hunch right now, I do think that Wesley Yates will wrap this thing up. But if it's not Wesley Yates, Zach, you have to feel good about the core group that they have right now, that just find, as I throw the headphones everywhere, just find one more shooter to wrap this thing up. And, do you buy into the kind of national title hype that this, that this team could be with Jayden Quaintance and whoever this final roster spot could be?
I think they've definitely got all the pieces you kind of look for. You've got a lot of really good upside players, some really talented freshmen. Ideally, you get Otega Owe back as well. There's your kind of like centerpiece for it all, your core returning piece. Really, I think it's interesting to see like how Colin Chandler will fit into all this, especially if they get a guy like Wesley Yates. Like, where does his role look like? It definitely feels like Travis Perry and Trent Noah are going to be taking some back seats. You have to think that that's probably what they signed up for and kind of know going into all this. But yeah, like, I do think you still need that one more shooter just to kind of put you over the top. But all these preseason rankings and stuff, it's hard to kind of take seriously. But just all the things that it felt like Kentucky lacked last year, that's really what Pope has addressed in the portal. And those main things were physicality and athleticism. And I think he's done a great job of loading up on three of those guys, Kam Williams, Quaintance, and Dioubate, are really, really good type athletic specimen guys that are just going to change the makeup of how they can battle against SEC teams, essentially, and be a little bit more forceful. And hopefully that should turn things a little bit in their favor, just compared to some of the things that went wrong for them last season. You still... Do you have a guy that can go get you a bucket, right? Whenever you need it? Owe was kind of that guy last year. Is that going to, you're going to need someone beside him to really do that as well, I think. Is that going to be Jaland Lowe? Is it going to end up being someone like Quaintance even? Anything like that? Or even Colin Chandler? Does he take a big leap? So I think they're going to be a lot deeper going into next season, especially having Perry and Noah kind of being like your 13th, 14th, 15th guys as dudes who have like real legit SEC experience. God forbid any unfortunate injury bug bites Kentucky again. I know Stephen Peake's probably shaking his fist as I say that right now at the Sun, but I think they're in great shape right now to be a real threat going into 25-26.
Well, the debut on 3 ranking for the way too early had Kentucky at 4, and that was before Jayden Quaintance. So, I mean, are they number 1? Like, can we just pencil them in for number 1 this season? I don't see an argument against it at this point. This is a lot of fun. I think this is 3 of the last 4 days we've been able to do this. Yeah. So, boom season is upon us.
Give us another Wesley.
Yeah. Boom season is upon us. If only there was a podcast or something that, really talked, Jacob, about like boom's coming, here comes boom, something like that, Jacob.
What's a little weird is I've been doing this podcast, Here Comes the Boom, for a long time, since last summer, and we still haven't had Jack Pilgrim on. So I think that might need to happen pretty soon.
I'm very for it. Hopefully we can continue these rapid reactions. Maybe one big commitment here coming up soon. That would be very appreciated, because we're having a lot of fun with this. I'm really enjoying the way this roster's rolling. And we took some flack early for the be patient and cope with Pope. Oh, here you go, you sunshine pumper. Things have worked out just fine. So I'm happy with where things stand. Hopefully we can keep this momentum rolling because, things are looking good. We were watching the national championship last night, and I'm like, man, I'm just ready with this commitment. I'm just ready to get that ball tipped off again and, run this thing back. I'm ready for year 2 of Mark Pope right after year 1 wrapped up. So for Jack Pilgrim, for Zach Gagan, for Jacob Polch, I don't even know, we're in a weird setup. So Jacob, wherever you are, Steven's to my left and Drew is to my right. We had a lot of fun this morning. Shout out to Jayden Quaintance for coming on with us on KSR. If you didn't hear that, we're going to upload that video and have that one-on-one interview with Jayden Quaintance, and hopefully we can keep this momentum rolling. We'll see you next time. Go Cats.